Welcome to Dreamcatchers. I'm Diane O'Connor, and in this series, we'll be hearing from MBSRT members who have retired and have gone on to their next chapter following their dreams. We'll meet people who have taken the leap and have gone on to have great adventures and wonderful life experiences. Our Dreamcatcher today is Bob Gillis from the Miramichi. Bob began his teaching career as an English and science teacher, gradually becoming involved in technology to become a technology mentor and later a coordinator for School District 16, where he achieved awards for excellence in teaching and innovation. Before Bob retired, he began to return to his first love, aviation. In 2014, he became a student at Evasion Air Flight School in Bathurst, where he earned his pilot's license in 2015. Welcome to Dreamcatchers, Bob.
Thanks, Diane. It's good to be here.
From our earlier conversations, you obviously have a deep love of flying. When did you first become interested in flying, and how does it bring you joy?
It's kind of interesting because I started flying about 40 years ago, and the CFP Chatham was here in the Miramichi. It's probably 50 years ago now, come to think of it. And as a service to the community, they offered a flight school. I believe it was $20, and you could take your flight school at the. And actually, they gave classes at Miramichi Valley High School. So there were a bunch of us who took the flight school and started flying. I think there were five or six of us from the school who started flying. And so I started flying at the time, and I don't know how to say it, probably life got in the way. We started having kids and things like that. And so I got away from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that will happen sometimes. Life does get in the way. Life goes on whether we want it to or not, for sure. So does your background in technology give you a bit of an advantage when it comes to learning how to fly a plane?
I think it does. There's a lot of there's a fair bit of math and navigation, and now pretty much everyone is putting away the maps and using pilot assists. Like probably the most famous one out there is ForeFlight. There are others that are free out there. Use an iPad and ForeFlight and plot your course, and it tells you. You have the settings for your plane and how fast it will go. It calculates the winds and tells you when you're going to get there. It's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, so technology. Yeah, if you have technology, you'll do well.
Yeah, that's for sure. And you have to learn how to use the technology as well as learn how to fly the plane.
Absolutely. And it's funny because I have flown with captains like who fly for WestJet and so on, and when they get in a small plane, they always say it's nice to fly again, because in the big 747s, they're just flying a computer. They're just operating a computer. It'll even land for them. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. You don't think about that. Of course, when you're a passenger, you don't want to think about any of that, especially if it goes on autopilot.
That's right. You don't want to know.
No, you don't want to know for sure. Yes. Yeah.
Autopilot will even land them, actually, so
wow.
You don't want to know that either.
No. Oh my golly. Well, I know there's a lot involved in learning how to fly a plane, but I know one part of it is you have to get your flight hours in. So how did you do that?
Well, in fact, a friend of mine, Dale McRae, a couple of years before I retired, said to me one day, he said, I never understood why you didn't finish your pilot's license. And I said, well, you know what happened at the time. And he said, yes. He said, but you can start to fly now. He said, in fact, there's a little flight school up in Bathurst. And I said, well, it costs $60,000. He said, no, not $60,000. It might cost 12 or 15, but not that. He said, maybe 60 for your commercial license. So he texted me the address, and I called a fellow who's a friend of mine now, Clement, and said I wanted to come up to see the school and see the fleet. And so I went up to Bathurst, and the flight school was in a budget rent-a-car hangar, and they had half it cordoned off for the flight school, and some 2x4s and a room with a desk in it and a fax machine and a porta potty. And So we chatted for a while, and he told me when I could start to fly and so on. He said, and I wanted to see the planes, and finally said, well, this way. And he opened the door onto the what they call the air side, which is the other side of the fence in an airport. And he stepped out, and I stepped out, and I looked left, and I looked right, and this is playing way over in the. So I realized that was the fleet, and he
Oh my.
he took me over and opened the door of the plane, and all the seat was the bottom of the seat was all worn out and torn apart and stuffing coming out. And says, "Oh," he says, "we're going to fix that. We're going to fix that." And so I stood back, and I thought, this is my kind of flight school.
Yes. Yes. Oh, with duct tape and everything involved.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the red-green flight school.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it was really about that. But they, I got to tell you, the instructors up there were the finest you can get. There's no, they're operating on a shoestring, but top-notch instruction. There was no problem with that.
Oh, that's excellent. Oh, yeah. So when you were learning the technical side of flying and everything, I know you have the ground school, you have the air time and everything, but does it take a certain discipline and an attitude to when you're learning how to fly a plane?
I hate to say this, but you do have to have a bit of grit, particularly when you get older. You get a little more cautious about things, that you're not going into it with the same gusto and lack of knowledge you do when you're younger. Mm-hmm. And everything you do, you're thinking, this could turn out really badly. And I've seen things like this before. So you do have to reach into your tickle trunk and pull out every ounce of courage you have to do some of the exercises. And after you've done them, you're fine, and a number of exercises you have to go through. And the ones that I don't like and still don't, and some of my flying colleagues love them, are stalls and spins, and you pull nose back and it loses basically the lift and comes spiraling out of the air, and you have to recover from it. And you would say, well, why would anyone want to do that? And the whole object of it is to train you so that if you ever do get into a stall or spin, you know how to get out of it. You can recognize it and you know how to get out of it. So
yes.
I never liked them before, and I still don't like them, but I can do them.
No, it's good you can do them for sure. Yeah, because I can see the reasoning behind it, but it's not something you want to be able to do all the time.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Huh. So leading from that into my next question is, have you had any really scary moments when you were flying?
I don't think I've got 900 and some hours now, so I'm not a beginner pilot, and there are pilots with thousands of hours, but certainly I have a number of hours under my belt. I don't think you can fly for any number of hours and not have something that has scared you. Saying that pilots, you hear pilots saying once in a while, is I scared myself today. Mm-hmm. And either they've done something they shouldn't have done, or something failed, or they went into a partial failure and they had to use their training to get out of it. I actually had a fuel line blockage. I had a 16-year-old in the right-hand seat, and we're way over northeastern New Brunswick. It's between Bathurst and Miramichi, and it's basically a bog out there. And the engine started to falter, and I didn't know what was wrong. And I had a buddy flying off my left wing, and he's actually an aircraft mechanic, and he has his own plane. And so I said, I'm having problems with the engine. He said, "You're kidding." I said, "No, really, I'm having problems with this engine."
Yeah, no.
And I was looking for somewhere to put it down. The first thing you do is when you have engine problems, you start looking around. You know what direction the wind is blowing from, and you're looking for somewhere to set it down. And I have to tell you, I would have to be over an area where there was virtually nothing but trees and bog. Mm-hmm. It could only happen.
That's scary. That's awful.
Well, I was trying to gain altitude, and And I said, the guy and the student who was with me, his name was Macaulay. He was actually from Scotland. And he said, Macaulay, fasten your seatbelt down tight. And remember the preamble I gave you before we started flying, what a fire extinguisher is. And so do I do that? He says, oh, yes. And he says, and I explained everything to him once again. I said, and he says, after I finished, he says, he's Scottish, he was a part of a Scottish band that was here. And he said, don't worry, I trust you, Bob. And I said, really, you didn't trust me, Macaulay, you really shouldn't.
Oh, my word.
But, we coached the plane up, and he said, I thought, if you're going to crash, you should actually be trying to get down further. And I said, I just explained very quickly, if your engine's going to fail, you try to get as much altitude as you can so you can decide where you want to land the plane in the forced landing. And I wanted to get high enough that I could see a road somewhere that I could put it down. But we managed to get the plane back to the airport. I had to cross the river, and I wanted to have enough altitude such that if I literally lost the engine completely over the Miramichi River, I would have a chance to get the bank on either side. You don't want to put it down in the river. So,
oh, right.
We managed to get back, and I've seen people do this before, but I never thought I'd do it. I got out of the plane and I kissed the ground.
I can understand that. Yes, for sure.
Oh yeah.
I think a lot of people do that even after turbulence on an airplane.
Oh yes, for sure. It was, but the little fellow with me, he was remarkable, and it's when you've got, I guess it may be something to do with teachers, but when you have someone with you, you become more determined. I think I found more grit knowing that I had this little fella beside me that I had to get home. It's funny, like it's I just I was glad he was there because I think he helped me. He made me more, not that I wouldn't be determined to land somewhere safe, but it
was good you had company.
Good to have company for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, wow. Yeah. Gee. Well, now going from that scary moment, do you have a really pleasant memory of taking someone up in an airplane?
I sure do. This would have been in the spring. A friend of mine that I hadn't heard from in the longest time called. He's not a close friend, everybody, but someone who was a friend, and I hadn't seen him in a few years. And he called and he sent me a message on Messenger and asked if I give him a buzz, and I gave him a buzz. And he said, "There's a little old lady that lives close to me, and." Now, I can't remember, Diane, whether he said 94 or 97. I got both those figures. It doesn't matter. She was really old. She was in her 90s.
Yeah.
And he didn't tell me the details, but I think she lived close to him. And somehow or other, she was a confidant of his. And he's actually, I won't say what he does because I'm afraid I'll give him away, but he said, she's terminal now. She found out she has some terminal illness. And he said, I asked her what she would like to do, something she's always wanted to do and hasn't done yet and wants to do before she goes through the pearly gates. And quickly she just said, I'd love to fly over the Miramichi, just like that. And it's and he called me and asked, and I said, we have to wait till the weather is good because when we're flying with passengers, it doesn't take too much to make them sit. So we like to fly in the early morning or the evening hours when there's no thermals and it's pretty smooth flight. And he said, I understand that. He said, but he said, time is of the essence. And I said, I understand. So I think it was 3 days later, I said, tomorrow the weather looks really good. And so I made arrangements to meet them at the airport, and we drove through. And I had the plane out and ready when he arrived with her and introduced me. And she was the sweetest little old lady. And so I gave her the emergency briefing, and we took off. And she, it's nothing as a pilot. There's nothing as much fun as hearing people saying things like, "Oh wow."
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And she must have, I don't know how many times she said that. And a couple of times when I was just banking, I wanted to take her around to see her house, where her house was. I was banking. She put her hand up. So I knew she's a little bit nervous there. And I said, okay, I explained we're just in a bank and I'll straighten out. And she was good.
Yeah.
And, so we came back and landed. And when we finished, she stopped. She thanks me so much, and my friend came over and he thanked me. And she opens her purse and she hauls out a $10 bill. She wanted to pay me excessively for this flight. She wanted to really, really pay me for it. And I said, absolutely not. I was very happy to have you as a passenger.
Yeah.
And, she gave me a big hug, and my friend left with her. And this sounds like something from Reader's Digest, but he sent me a messenger about 3 weeks later, and she had passed away. And he wanted to thank me profusely again for taking it. And it was a joy to take her,
Oh, what a lovely story.
Yeah.
It's always nice when we have those experiences with people, and you obviously have such joy in flying, and you shared that joy with her, which was a lovely thing.
I love people to love what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh, that was really, really nice. You've had a long career in teaching, and you've done lots of things during your teaching career, and then your extracurricular and everything else. But now you've retired. So we have a lot of teachers coming up the line and who are maybe in their last 5 years or who are just about to retire. What kind of advice would you give to them about following their dreams? Because obviously you followed yours.
Yes. I have one piece of advice. Before you retire, if you don't yet have a hobby or an interest or a passion for something, develop it, because you'll have time to work on it. And Diane, we've all heard the stories of, I remember when the mill was here in town, periodically you hear the story of this person who retired from the mill, and a year later they went back to work because they didn't know what to do with themselves. And it just screams, I have no passion for anything, because if you did, there would be no problem when you retire. There'd be no problem finding something to do. And what I would suggest to teachers who don't have any interests in things, they just go to school and come home and watch TV. You can develop an interest, or you can develop a passion for something, but pick something you think you like and get out and do it. Meet the people who do it, and get out there. And the other thing about, you don't have to pick something that is where you're sitting about and you're not. Pick something that's going to be a challenge to you. Well, just of course, we're here talking about flying, but it's interesting because since I started flying again, I'm amazed at the number of people who have told me they've always wanted to take a pilot's license.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And good friends of mine whom I wouldn't have expected to say that to me.
Wow. Well, maybe they're looking at you and saying, well, maybe I can do that.
I hope people do, because if I thought that people would look at this and say, I've got to do something like that. And it doesn't have to be skydiving or like that, but something where you're getting out and you're active. And I think you have to keep the blood moving.
Yes.
And something where you're not sedentary, because I think our bodies were made to be active. And I think And I've
Oh,
seen, we've all done this. We've all seen people who sort of, your body, it regresses if you don't do stuff. You're just sitting about,
no, that's very true. It's very true. And there's so many things people can do. I mean, I've always told friends, you retire from something to something else.
Yeah.
You start your next chapter, your next career, whatever it's going to be. And we have so many people out there who could be great volunteers. That our communities need volunteers all the time.
And
And we have
teachers are
all,
leaders, Diane, eh?
oh,
That's a
yes,
big thing, eh?
big thing. And they have such wonderful life experience.
Yes. And the thing about teachers is they're well educated. They have a lot of life experience. They spend a career dealing with people, either youngsters or their parents. So the teachers fit into so many things so nicely that they don't even think about, what was my wife was saying to me? Someone called and asked me, I forget what it was they wanted me to do. And I said, why in heck would they ask me to do that? And she said, because you're a teacher. And I said, well, I'm a retired teacher. And she said, no, because of the skill set you have as a teacher. And
Exactly.
I never thought of it, become,
Oh, yes.
yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, many teachers sit on boards. Lots of nonprofits have boards of directors, and they're always looking for people with skill sets that a teacher would have.
Yes.
Yeah. So it is great. So people, your advice is good. We should all get out there and do something that brings us joy, and something that we can enjoy and really have fun at, and live our lives to the fullest, because it's not much fun sitting home with a book or watching television all day. I mean, you can do part of that, but you need to share yourself with others.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And teachers have a tremendous skill set that they've gotten through their career. They deal well with people. They basically, I don't know any career that a person would have that would fit so nicely into so many areas, and that people wouldn't be glad to have them. That's the other thing.
Oh, yes.
In teachers, you become, I don't know what you call it. You just think you're doing your job with a passion and that you're doing the best for your students, but I don't think teachers ever reflect on themselves to realize the skills that they have and the things they can do.
Mm-hmm. And the things they can learn, because, we're all lifelong learners, and to learn, you grow. And obviously you have done that, and you have soared high,
No
you
pun intended.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, it's wonderful to speak to someone like yourself, who was taken upon himself the challenge of going back to his first love of flying and all that entails, because it's not an easy thing to do, of course, with all of the training involved and all of the flight hours, but you went and did it. And that can be something for others to see. Well, maybe I can do something, maybe not as big as flying, but maybe I can join a board, or maybe I can volunteer at the food bank, or maybe I can help the library, whatever it is. Just get out and do it, right?
Absolutely. Bicycling, the e-bikes now, if you don't feel really strong, you can get an e-bike and you can go anywhere. Make sure you got enough battery to get back home. That's all.
Yes. And even if you don't have an e-bike, you can go for a walk, because, we're getting back to our physicalness. We have to, because, after being in the classroom for so long, it's nice to have that time to just spend on yourself, to get out and do those things that we enjoy.
And do you know, Diane, something I was just thinking, I took biology in undergrad school, and I wanted to take the interesting biologies, but sometimes certain courses didn't fit in your schedule, and I had to take botany, and I had to look up in a dictionary to find out what it was that I considered I was being forced into. And I have to say that when I took the botany, I got through the course, but I just had a bad mental attitude towards it. But I wish now I was back in that course, because, well, it gave me an appreciation for plants, but there's a there's an app on I found out, I'm going around remembering this. This is Ledum. I think this is called Labrador tea, and it's a highly advanced plant. And I stumbled on a little app, and just talking about your iPhone and technology, this app is called Picture This.
Oh, yes.
And do you know that one, Diane?
Our landscaper, she showed it to me because we didn't know what half our plants were, and she was doing that.
It is amazing. And you take your iPhone and you point it at that, and you take a picture of it, and you see it scanning through the picture, and it comes back, bing, and it tells you what it is and the history of the plant and what it was used for historically. And that's a blast. Yeah.
Oh, there's so many fun things, aren't there? There's so much to do. And now, we have that precious commodity of time, and we must make use of that time that we have in the best way so that we can be happy.
Absolutely. I just thought, as you were talking, I thought of another one, that's geocaching is still a lot of fun. You can do that once again. You can just pick up your iPhone and do it with that, and get out and that gets you all over the countryside and over hill and dale, and
and we have lots of great trails in this province. So many great trails for walking and hiking. Yeah. Oh, well, this has been great. Thank you so much, Bob, for sharing your experience with us and telling us about flying and what it took for you to get back up in the air. And now that you're soaring high, I wish you the very best, and safe journeys in the clouds, and safe landing as well.
And it's been my pleasure to talk to you, Diane. Thanks very much for this.
Thanks again, Bob.